You call your friend. Can I borrow your car? You say. Perhaps yours is in the shop for repair. And she says no. The following week she calls you. Can I borrow your car? And you reply, no way, you didn't lend me yours just last week. This is what the Torah refers to as taking revenge. Lo tikom, you shall not take vengeance. And there's another way this story could go. You call your friend, can I borrow your car? She says no. And the following week she calls you, can I borrow your car? And you reply, of course you can borrow my car. I'm not like you. You wouldn't lend yours to me. That is bearing a grudge. Lo titor. Lo tikom velo titor, the verse states in our parasha of Kedoshim. You shall not exact revenge, and you shall not bear a grudge. These little anecdotes are what Rashi uses to illustrate the two prohibitions. Although, of course, instead of referring to borrowing a car, he uses a sickle and a hatchet. But the idea is the same. It helps us to illustrate the difference between these two prohibitions, lo tikom velo titor, and how they might be expressed in the real world. So what is the essential difference? Revenge has to do with our actions. We are behaving badly toward our fellow. Ideally, we should be showing kindness even to someone who might not have done the same for us. We should not take revenge. We should not behave improperly because of something that happened in the past. To bear a grudge has nothing to do with our actions, however. Bearing a grudge is something we are doing with our emotions. It is a feeling we might harbor, even if our actions are correct. We might do a kindness, but do it begrudgingly, with resentment in our hearts. Interestingly, the Torah, which is so fixated usually on our actions, our behaviors, as almost all of the mitzvot dictate what we do, dictates here how we feel inside, even if we are doing the right thing. How can the Torah command us with regards to our emotions, our feelings? Can we really be expected to control how we feel? This is a debate in many of the classical commentators, not only with regards to this prohibition of bearing a grudge, but in relation to several commandments that assume that we can dictate our emotions. You shall not covet, you shall not hate your fellow in your heart, and the one that appears right here in the same verse, ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, you shall love your fellow as you love yourself. Some commentaries believe that the Torah is not really trying to legislate how we feel, and that these commandments really only become expressed when they lead to a concrete action. For example, one only violates "you shall not covet" once that coveting has led you to steal that object that you covet. But an emotion on its own, that's really very hard to discern and even harder to legislate. Still, the existence of these commandments can be instructive for us. Although we might sometimes feel our emotions get the better of us, we also can believe that we can cultivate our feelings in a positive direction. And perhaps this verse is leading us along a continuum. You shall not exact revenge. This is an action. You shall not bear a grudge. This is the feeling behind an action. You shall love your neighbor. This is pure feeling. We don't start with trying to control our feelings. We start by looking at our actions. But gradually, if we cultivate a deeper awareness of our every action, then we can also start to pay attention to what's behind the action. Did I lend her the car because it was the right thing to do, or because I bear a grudge and I want to prove that I'm better than? The Torah is instructing us not only to control our actions, but not to leave our emotions behind. You shall love your neighbor, because you can. You can cultivate that sense of obligation toward the other, that sense of community and connection that we all crave. And it begins with you. It begins with all of us. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. This has been a fascinating week here in Montreal, and I've chosen this background specifically in order to illustrate to you the point that sometimes you have to be careful what you wish for, or in our case, what you read in the weekly Torah portion. Last week, the parasha was Tazria Metzora, where we talked about a skin affliction that is often described in the Torah as being white kasheleg, as snow. And, well, sometimes when it rains around Shmini Atzeret, I get accused of practicing the prayer for rain a little bit too hard. Well, maybe we practiced reading last week's parasha a little bit too hard, because this was not what we were expecting from this week's weather here in the third week of April. So I decided that this would be an opportunity to take you on a quick tour of a couple of spots in the world of Jewish music where sheleg, snow, is referred to. The first comes from the slichot prayers that we say around the High Holy Days. And we say, Halebein chata'enu kasheleg, v'chatsemer yalbinu. Whiten our sins as snow and as wool. And it is really a fascinating image. We wear white robes around the High Holy Days, and there's an image of purity, and I think that is part of certainly what we all aim for at the High Holy Day season, to purify our souls for the new year. And so I'm sharing with you first a short excerpt of a very, very famous cantorial rendition by the great cantor Mordechai Hirschman from the golden age in the 1920s of cantorial music. This is his setting of Halebein Chata'enu Kasheleg. I'll never forget the first winter that I was living in Jerusalem as a cantorial student. It was January of 2000, and one night, yes, 40 centimeters of snow fell on the Holy City. And what you see behind me in an artist's depiction was exactly what I witnessed when I walked to the Kotel that Friday. And it was a really surreal, spectacular, otherworldly experience to be in Jerusalem covered in white snow. Naomi Shemer, the great songwriter, captured this idea in her famous song Sheleg al Iri, Snow Upon My City. But she wasn't referring to Jerusalem in the song. It just so happens that it always catches my mind whenever snow falls in Jerusalem. This was written as part of a show called The Travels of Benjamin III by Shalom Yankov Abramovich, also known as Mendele Mocher Sfarim. He was one of the great Yiddish writers, and in this song, Mendele sets Zelda in an imaginary city that he calls Batlon, and he describes various types of fruit that she eats in this city: figs, carobs, dates, and oranges. The words are, "Snow over my city, resting all the night. My love has gone to the warm lands. Snow over my city, and the night is cold. From the warm countries he will bring me a date, the honey of the fig, the sweetness of carob, and a caravan of camels laden with all good things. Surely my heart's son will return here, and from there he will bring an orange. Snow over my city, resting like a talit. From the warm lands, what have you brought me? Snow on my city, snow on my face, and within the fruit are all my longings." enjoy this beautiful recording from the early 1980s on Israeli television of Sheleg al Iri. Stay warm, stay healthy. Shabbat Shalom.
שלג על עירי, כל הלילה נח, אל ארצות חכום אהובי הלך. שלג על עירי, והלילה קר, מארצות החום לי יביא תמר. שלג על עירי, והלילה קר, מארצות החום לי יביא תמר. דבש התאנה, מתק החרוב, ואורחת גמלים עמוסי כל טוב. הן השוב ישוב, שמש לבבי, ומשם תפוח זהב יביא. הן השוב ישוב, שמש לבבי, ומשם תפוח זהב יביא. שלג על עירי, נח כמו טלית, מארצות החול בהבאת אני. שלג על עירי, שלג על פניי, ובתוך הפרי כל גאווה. שלג על עירי, שלג על פניי, ובתוך הפרי